Now they say that at the crossroads, when the moon is full, you can see everyone who ever passed this way. You can see them greeting one another, whether they came here yesterday or many seasons gone. You can see lost lovers kissing. You can see old foes squaring up, wrestling and fighting. You can see strangers dancing in the thunder and the lightning. Then, in a moment, before you can blink, before you can rub your eyes, it is silent again, as if none of them had ever been here. But if you look down, you will see footprints crisscrossing the leaf mulch, more than could ever pass this way in a night or in a day. And you hear soft voices, just for a moment, floating on the wind. But then you turn around to catch what they are saying and they are gone, and there is only Pickapple, sitting on an upturned bucket outside his hut, laughing at you. His laughter rattles the leaves until they tumble from the trees, covering up the footprints as if they were never there. His laughter rattles the clouds to send them scudding across the moon, till there is only darkness, and you are alone with the darkness, alone with Pickapple and his laughter. Rimini slipped away quietly down the rutted lane and then on up the track that led to Loudon's Beck. She would glance this way and that to make sure no one had followed her, then make her way along a path so choked with weeds and thorns you would scarce know it was there unless you had been before. But Rimini, she went there every day. It led to the waterfall that tumbled down the hill, rippling and splashing into Loudon's Beck, and Rimini would sit beside it and wash her hands in the water, and sometimes her feet, and then her long dark hair, for the water felt pure and soft and clean, and then she would sit on a rock and dream. She would dream the voice of the linnet on the branch high above was singing just to her, as the water leapt and danced from stone to stone. Then sometimes in the heat of the afternoon sun, Rimini's lids would flutter closed and the voice of the linnet became the voice of a boy, talking to her as she nestled against the rock. "I see you, Rimini," the voice seemed to say. "I see you, Rimini, when you come here every day. You do not see me, but I am watching. I am here in the trees, I am here in the shadows. I am the voice of the air that kisses your cheek. I am Flaxwing." "Flaxwing," Rimini would whisper in reply, in her mind seeing the figure of a tall, slim boy standing beside her at the edge of the stream. And one afternoon, when she opened her eyes, sure as sure, he was standing there, just for a moment. His hair was long and flowing and his eyes burned amber fire, but as he raised his hand to beckon her, he vanished pure away. Rimini called his name, but there came no reply. She ran to the spot where he had stood, but all she heard was the water's cry. She leapt nimble-footed from rock to rock, then plunged back and forth through the bushes, still calling, but all that she heard was the clamour of the birds as they swooped from tree to tree. From the shadows of a thorn bush stepped a tall, haggard man. Elmskin turned, but there was nowhere to hide. The man strode towards him, his eyes blazing wild. They faced each other, but neither spoke. As the dust whipped into Elmskin's eyes, the tall man stretched out a hand. "You have come to find me," his voice rasped harshly. Elmskin shook his head. "I don't know who you are." The man's gaze was piercing. "Then know this," he snarled, ripping aside the blood-red scarf which swathed his neck. Elmskin peered at the scars, like as if a rope had been knotted there. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm Glowthrough. I am the Hanged Man," came the reply. "I was hanged for taking the breath from the wind, the laughter from the stream, the blossom from the bushes, the wit from the vixen as she crossed the field. Any deed that happened, it was me that stood the blame. They hung me once, they hung me twice, they hung me a third time, and then they let me go. Now I can do anything I choose. They can never hang me. I can steal a sheep, I can drown a child. But now that I've been hanged, I don't want to do any of these. I want to help the sick and the lame. I want to help Wyvern and little children. But they run away. They say I scare them. Look into my eyes." Rimini stumbled wildly this way and that, nearly tripping into a ditch in the darkness. The blood was beating in her temples, and voices screeched all around her, in the shadows, behind beds of nettles, nestled in the crooked branches of trees, a low muttering rising to a crescendo, then falling away. But whenever she looked round, there was nothing there, and yet she could sense them close behind her, touching her hair, brushing up against her sleeve, blowing cold breath on her cheek. And then she stopped and listened, and all she could hear was the wind and the far-off cry of an owl. She raised her hand to her face where a trickle of blood ran down her cheek. Her sleeve was ripped. It felt as if she had stumbled through a thorn bush, but she could not remember. She looked back. The path behind was dark and silent. The path ahead was just the same. And so she slept, dreamt a rattle of voices, cries and screams, and half-glimpsed figures prodding and pointing, jostling and harrying. She woke to a dawn draped in a misty drizzle. As she rose and rubbed her eyes, she felt someone touch her shoulder, lightly. She turned quick to see no one, nothing but the shadows of the forest. She shook her head, thinking it must be the dream again. Then a little way off, she heard a flute calling to her, soft and low, merging with a stuttering chorus of birds, and a drum tapping a rhythm, steady and beckoning. Then the touch on her shoulder again, urging her on, though still she saw no one. Rimini shivered. The path was slippery beneath her feet, dark mud oozing, crawling with snails and sticky with their silvery trails. The drumming grew louder and the flute swirled and soared as a figure appeared beside her out of the drizzle, lumbering and awkward, and then suddenly dancing, its head jerking frantically from side to side, hair wild as straw tossed in the wind, and a grin, and a grin fixed and gritted, and eyes that just stared. Rimini stared. The figure bowed. And then she saw the strings, and up in the trees a hunched silhouette squatting in the branches, his hands clutching a cluster of sticks and pulleys that led to the strings. Rimini smiled. Then she laughed, then she curtsied, and held out her hand to touch the figure in greeting. The puppet's hand swung forward. Rimini gripped and felt skin, horny skin, weathered skin, skin that had been out in the wind and the rain, but skin all the same. Rimini gasped. She looked up. The head of the puppet nodded forward. For a moment she thought that it winked, but the cheeks and the brows, same as the hands, creased and crinkled, wrinkled. But skin, skin same as hers, same as any breathing person, but not breathing, dancing and jerking to the drum's twisting rhythm, writhing and lurching to the flute's leering call, but not breathing at all.
Hop we may and stop your play and chase your pain and tears away. Loll head and tumble down, we go from town to town, follow the season round. Loll head and tumble down, dance we can and chance again, and laugh and fall and stand again. Loll head and tumble down, we go from town to town, follow the season round. Loll head and tumble down, gone, gone, gone. The grey rain falls, the dark rooks cry, the thunder calls, alone am I, gone, gone, gone.
The shades of the forest are dark, where the juice of the berry runs sweet, and the shadows will dance you till dawning, never knowing just who you will meet. But the juice of the berry will kiss your dry tongue, make old eyes sparkle like when they were young. The rays of the dawning shine bright, where the juice of the berry runs sweet, and sunlight will lead you to evening, when the toil of the day is complete. But the rot is in the apple and the blight is on the corn. The geese have fled the meadow and there's blood upon the thorn. The moon, it is not silver. The sun, it is not gold. The sky, it is not velvet. And the clouds hang grey and cold. Pickapple sat atop one side of the well, with Littlebury astride the other, whiling away the afternoon chucking beechnuts at one another. "What's that yellow waistcoat you'm a-wearing?" she teased. "Look more like a yellowhammer singing, 'Little bit of bread and no cheese.'" "Ain't nothing wrong with a little bit of bread and cheese," Pickapple replied. He opened his kerchief, but found it full of crumbs. "Must have ate it all." But I heard that song the other day when old Binnock came a-wandering down the lane." "What, old Binnock? She sang that song?" Little Bruce spun another beechnut into the air, then caught it between her teeth. "No, not her, but a yellowhammer true flew all about her as she walked on down the lane, whistled in the hedges, then came back again to perch upon her shoulder and peck all at her ear. Little bit of bread and no cheese." Pickapple wrapped up the kerchief and tucked it in his pocket, then started to flap his arms as if they might be wings. Little Brie laughed so much at his antics that she near toppled down the well.